Summary of The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Amerigo Bonasera, a funeral director, is there while the court decides whether or not to postpone the sentences of the two men who were responsible for the brutal assault committed against his daughter. He is so angry that he chooses to go after Don Vito Corleone for real justice. In a hotel in Los Angeles, famous actor Johnny Fontane gets drunk and hits his second wife, actress Margot Ashton, for cheating on him, but he can't hit her beautiful face. Johnny goes to his godfather, Don Corleone, to talk about his problems with his voice and his job. In the meantime, Nazarene, a baker in New York, wants to stop Enzo from being sent back to Italy. The baker knows Don Corleone is the only one who can help. August 1945 is here. The godfather, Don Vito Corleone, is the Sicilian-American boss of the Corleone family, one of the 5 families that run organized crime in New York City. He is holding the wedding of his daughter, Connie Corleone, at his luxurious Long Beach home. Don Vito's kids will also be at the wedding. Sonny Corleone, who has a bad temper, sneaks off to have sex with Lucy Mancini, who is his lover. The middle son, Fredo Corleone, does his duty and talks to everyone at the wedding. Michael Corleone, Don Vito's youngest son and a hero of World War II, is sitting with Kay Adams, who is not Italian. The Don has a lot of money and power because he runs illegal business like gambling and blackmail. So, he is a respected man to whom people go to get justice outside of the law and other services in exchange for promising to always be loyal to their godfather. The Don gets together with Bonasera, Fontane, and Nazarene. He agrees to help them solve their problems, but he scolds Bonasera for putting too much faith in the law. Later that night, Don Corleone goes to the hospital to see his consigliere, Janko Abbandando, who is dying. When Janko dies, the Don gives the job of consigliere to Tom Hagen, his adopted son and lawyer. Don Corleone sends Hagen to Hollywood to convince movie director Jack Woltz to put Fontane in his new movie. Woltz says no because Fontane stole his prize lady. In response, the Don's goons cut off the head of Woltz's favorite racehorse and put it on his bed. Woltz gives Fontane the part even though he is scared. The Don also sends his capo regime, Peter Clemenza, and his guards to beat the 2 men who attacked Bonasera's daughter. Then, Don Corleone's political friends, whom he pays, stop Enzo, Nazarene's helper, from being sent away. After Connie's wedding, Don Corleone meets with Virgil the Turk Sollozzo, a heroin dealer with ties to the Tattaglia family. Sollozzo offers a big profit if the Corleone family will use its political links to protect his drug distribution ring. The Don doesn't get involved because he thinks drugs are a dirty business that would scare away his political friends. The Don is suspicious of Sollozzo, so he sends his enforcer, Luca Brasi, to watch on the Turk. But Sollozzo and Bruno Tattaglia, the son of the boss of the Tattaglia family, kill Brasi in a bar. Michael and Kay are on a date in New York City around Christmas time when Michael reads in a newspaper that his father has been shot. Sollozzo pays Don Corleone's bodyguard, Poligato, to betray his boss because Don Corleone won't join his drug business. Then, Sollozzo sends hitmen to kill the Don, but they fail. After that, Sollozzo takes Tom Hagen hostage and orders him to make sure that Sonny, who is now the Don, makes a deal with him about drug distribution. Sollozzo then asks Mark McCluskey, a police captain who works for him, to help him kill Don Corleone in his hospital room. Michael stops this second attempt to kill his father by getting more guards for him. Poligato, the spy, is killed in his car by Clemenza and his guard, Rocco Lampuan. Michael then comes up with a plan with Sonny, Hagen, and the 2 capo regimes, Clemenza and Saltesio, to kill Sollozzo and McCluskey to stop more people from trying to kill Don Corleone. Michael meets Sollozzo and McCluskey in a diner. He goes to the bathroom to get a gun he had hidden and then shoots the other 2 men. Michael then runs away to Sicily to avoid being charged with murder. Sharon Moore, a young actor, turns down Johnny Fontane's attempts to sleep with her. Johnny then meets up with his ex-wife, Virginia, and their 2 girls. Tom Hagen then offers Johnny a deal to make a movie that Don Corleone will back. Johnny agrees to the deal so that his godfather will be happy, and he asks Nino Valenti, who used to play music with him, to join him in the business. Nino and Johnny record songs and make a few movies together, but Nino gets sick of the partying in Hollywood and turns to drinking. In a flashback, we see how Vito Corleone moved up in the crime world of New York. Vito Andolini was born in the Sicilian town of Corleone. When he was a teenager, his father and brother were killed by the mafia boss in Corleone. In the United States, he changes his last name to Corleone and works in the food store owned by the Abbandando family in Little Italy. In the end, Vito works with young Tessio and Clemenza to steal goods from delivery trucks and sell them for a profit. When Don Fanucci, the local black hand, hears about what Vito is doing, he fears violence if Vito and his friends don't give him a share of the money they make. Instead of paying Fanucci, Vito kills him, making himself a man of respect whose character as a scary person goes before him. Vito does good things for people who say they are loyal to him, and he and his wife, Mama Corleone, raise a family. During Prohibition, he sells illegal booze and makes a lot of money. He then starts an olive oil import business and uses his army crew to drive out rivals. Vito uses his legal businesses to hide the fact that his criminal empire is growing. He helps organize the other mafia groups into 5 families, each of which is in charge of a certain area. This keeps the criminal underground peaceful and secures his place as the most powerful mafia don in New York. The book goes back to 1947, where it left off. Kay Adams is a teacher in her home state of New Hampshire, where she was born. Michael has been gone for 2 years, and she has to answer questions from agents who are looking into whether he had anything to do with the deaths of Sollozzo and McCluskey. Back in New York, Carlo Rizzi is always beating his wife, Connie Corleone, because he thought the Corleones would make him rich, but all they gave him was a low-paying job making bets. Carlo's bad behavior toward Connie makes Sonny angry, and one day, Sonny beats Carlo badly in the street. Carlo doesn't fight back because he knows Sonny won't kill his sister's husband. The killings of Sollozzo and McCluskey have put the Corleone family at war with the 5 families. As Don Corleone comes home from the hospital, the family adds more protection to his big estate, known as the Mall. Fredo goes to Las Vegas to run the family's gambling business while Sonny, Hagen, Clemenza, and Tessio go to the mattresses and keep fighting the other families. The story moves quickly. Tom Hagen calls the funeral director Bonacera while he is having dinner at home to ask him to do a service for Don Corleone. Bonacera goes to his funeral home, where Don Corleone is waiting with Sonny's body, which has been shot. The Don asks Bonacera to clean up his son's body so that it can be buried with the box open. The book then goes back to the present, where Sonny's bloody fight against the 5 families has killed a lot of people but hasn't stopped the war. Tom Hagen doesn't like what Sonny is doing, but he can't stop him because Sonny is in charge until Don Corleone gets better. One night, Connie picks up the phone when one of Carlo's lovers calls. She talks to him, and he beats her again in anger. Then she calls Sonny and asks him to drive her to the mall. Sonny gets angry and takes the Jones Beach Causeway to get to Connie's place. When he stops at the toll booth, the car in front of him blocks him in, so the toll collector pulls out a gun and shoots him. 2 shooters get out of the car that was in the way and shoot him again. When Sonny's goons get to the scene, they call Tom Hagen, who then calls Carlo to tell him that he and Connie will move to the mall, where Carlo will have a more important role in the Corleone family. Later that day, Don Corleone finds out from Hagen that his oldest son has died. The Don says that you can't get even with someone. Don Corleone puts together a peace meeting with the heads of the 5 families and families from all over the land. At the meeting, Don Corleone tells the other bosses that they need to find a way to work together to end the war and stop more people from dying. He says that drug dealing will bring down the mafia because it will scare away their political friends who don't want to be involved in something they think is dangerous and illegal. He tells the other dons that most of their children work as pets in Avant, big shots, in law-abiding society, and that staying away from crime is a safer and less damaging choice for the future. Don Emilio Barzini and Don Philip Tattaglia, on the other hand, want Don Corleone to use his political ties to protect the other families that want to deal drugs because the business is too profitable to ignore. Don Corleone reluctantly agrees, but only if the other families promise not to get back at Michael for killing Sollozzo and McCluskey. Don Corleone calls an end to the meeting when the other Dons agree. The Don goes back to the mall and tells Hagen that he wants to sort of retire and that the consigliere should put Michael's safe return from Sicily at the top of his list of priorities. Don Corleone now knows that Barzini was always working with Sollozzo and Tattaglia, and if the Corleone family wants to keep its power, Barzini must be dealt with in the end. Also, since Sonny's death a year ago, Lucy Mancini has been residing in Las Vegas. There, she meets Dr. Jules Siegel, the beautiful doctor who works at the gambling hotel owned by the Corleone family. They start going out together, and Siegel finds out that Lucy has a health problem that makes it hard for her to have sex. He tells her that a Los Angeles surgeon he knows can fix her with a simple operation, and she falls in love with him because of how much he cares. Then he tells them that he does abortions on showgirls, many of whom are pregnant by Fredo Corleone. A few weeks later, Dr. Frederick Kellner is able to do an operation on Lucy that works. Lucy meets Johnny Fontaine and Nino Valenti after her surgery. Siegel hears Fontaine's rough voice and talks the stubborn singer into letting him look at his throat. Siegel notices that Johnny's voice cords have warts and recommends a surgeon who can get rid of them. He also tells Nino that his drinking will kill him soon. A month after Lucy's surgery, she is getting married to Siegel. The story takes place in the past. Michael Corleone has been hiding out in the Sicilian town of Corleone. He is staying at a house owned by Don Corleone's friends Don Tomasino, the local mafia boss, and Don Tomasino's uncle, Dr. Taza. Michael spends his days learning to read Italian and taking walks with his dog bodyguards Carlo and Fabrizio through the beautiful countryside of Sicily. One day, Michael is walking through the fields when he sees a beautiful country girl named Apollonia. He wants her right away. He goes to Apollonia's town and talks Signor Vitelli, Apollonia's father, into letting him marry his daughter. But Michael's mob enemies find out where he is because of the wedding. A car bomb made for Michael kills Apollonia instead. Michael goes back to America now that his enemies think he is dead. He finds Kay and they get married. Michael, on the other hand, wants to take over as Don of the Corleone family from his father. He tells Kay that she won't be his life partner and that she can never ask him about the family business. Michael chooses to shut down all of the Corleone family's businesses in the East, move to Las Vegas, and put all of his money into gambling there. He meets Fredo, Lucy, Fontaine, Nino, Siegel, and gambling boss Mo Green in Vegas. He gives Siegel a job in a new hotel and makes Green an offer he can't refuse to buy his share of the casino. Green, however, does refuse. In the meantime, Fontaine's new movies do very well, but Nino drinks himself to death in the end. Michael goes back to New York and comes up with a plan with Don Corleone to kill all of the Corleone family's enemies to settle all of their business. Michael also tells Clemenza and Tessio that after they move to Las Vegas, they can start their own New York families, but until then, they must stay true to the Corleones. Don Corleone died one morning in his yard. Michael starts his grand plan after the service for the Don. Mo Green, Don Barzini, and Philip Tattaglia are killed by his men. Michael then has Tessio killed. He knew that Tessio was working with Barzini to plan against him. Carlo betrayed Sonny to Barzini's hitmen, so Michael finally has Clemenza hang Carlo in a car with a rope. Now that Michael's mafia enemies are dead, he officially takes over as Don and makes the Corleones New York's most powerful mafia family again. Kay threatens to leave him when she finds out that he killed Carlo, but Hagen persuades her that Carlo's death was best for the family. She becomes a Catholic and she, Michael, and their 2 kids move to Nevada. Kay spends her last days in New York going to church and praying for her husband's eternal life.
About the author. Mario Puzo was born to Neapolitan parents who moved from Italy to New York. He was one of 12 children. He grew up in Hell's Kitchen, a rough area with a lot of Italian and Irish refugees on the west side of Manhattan. When Mario was 12, Puzo's father left the family. His strong-willed mother was left to raise the family on her own. During World War II, Puzo was in the army, but because he had bad eyesight, he never saw any action. He went back to New York after the war and started writing. He wrote stories for men's magazines like Swank and Mail and released 2 books, The Dark Arena, 1955, and The Fortunate Pilgrim, 1965. Both books were praised by critics, but they didn't sell very well. In the late 1960s, Puzo had 5 kids and was in a lot of debt, so he set out to write a bestseller. The result was The Godfather, which came out in 1969. It was a best-selling story about an Italian-American mafia family that became a cultural hit and led to a movie series that won 3 Academy Awards and was directed by Francis Ford Coppola. During the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, Puzo wrote a few more books and scripts. In 1999, he died of heart failure. Omerta, his final mafia epic, was released posthumously in 2000.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.